offline and back on. Come on, you. 3. Thank you, Lady B. Oh, we're back. Okay, cool. Thank you, Lady B. Take care. Bye. Hey, chat room. Whoops. Oh, collapsed. The whole camera fell over. That's my bad. Yeah. Look at that. Everything is falling over. I don't know why the stream ditched out those couple of times near the end. It might just be one of these things at the hotel where they just kind of limit your bandwidth, and once it hits a certain point, they start chucking the governor at you. You know what I mean? But anyways, I'm back, and here I am, and yay. So let me get in there. Yay. So straight up new stream. Let's go. I'll just say post show because it apparently went off, and there's a whole new whole new show. So that's totally fine. It was the Russians. Lost the very end of the show. Yeah, it kicked out on me for some reason. I'm not 100% sure why. So either way, I'm in Seattle. I got 2 more shows tonight in Bellevue at the Parlor Live here, and sort of last minute weekend shows. In between, doing the China show and my kind of regular travel and work schedule, like I'm working on a new special and I'm trying to write for it, and so whenever I can schedule dates, in between stuff, I do. And then this came up last week; they had a dropout or something like that. So since I was available this weekend, I took it. Good time. So, and I always love performing up here. I mean, I love being in Seattle, anyways. But Bellevue's really nice, and it's a cool club, and they tape everything. So when I'm writing, I've got a video of it, from each time. So, and yeah, who knew China was better internet than Seattle? Yeah, really. Had to reload. Love Seattle. It's progressive city. It's true. Jer is in Biloxi. Oh, that's cool. Kicked out as you were getting 30 thumbs down. Right. It happens. Okay. Yeah, did everybody give a thumbs up? You can give a thumbs up on this one too, because this is technically a separate show entirely. But yeah, so now we can talk about whatever we want to talk about. Hi, how you doing? I'm gonna have to, let's see. Is there a comedy club in the Space Needle? No, there's not. No, there is not. It's a I mean, I was in the Space Needle yesterday. I went and did press, and one of the places I did press was right next to the Space Needle, and it's actually, so we Riley, the dude from the club who takes me around to do press, he'd never been. So I was like, well, we got to go, man. We got to go up in the Space Needle. It was a good time. Bellevue, isn't that where all the crazy people are? Yeah. Bellevue is that's the asylum in New York that you're thinking of. I've been up there. Surprised. That's not surprising, Julie. You've been everywhere just about. Welcome back, Carl. Cool. Yeah, Seattle's amazing. I love Seattle. I mean, it's got its issues clearly, but nice, Natalie. Some snowflakes are going to bash your call with the troll. So, I don't care. I do not care. Honestly, like, there's no point. And again, I don't have a problem with some people who actually try to have an argument about it. It's just this, they all have just adopted there's no collusion, none. Nothing's been proven, nothing. There isn't anything. Like, they use these big, broad words, and you're like, you can't legitimately say there hasn't been anything or there's nothing. Like, there's obviously been a lot of stuff. You can say it doesn't tie to him or it's all circumstantial. You sound like an idiot if you do, but less of an idiot, I suppose, than if you say there's nothing at all. Maybe it's just easier to convince yourself of a big lie than a small one. But, I mean, it sounds like people, defending Capone, Al, who's your pick for the Dems so far? I like Kamala Harris. I do. I've liked her all along. I think she's particularly tough and smart. I liked how she handled Kavanaugh. I think she's good at secondary strategic thinking. She can, hardly be seen as, soft on crime. You can have whatever issues, but that's, she's. I mean, but there's any of them are better than him, and any of them are eminently more qualified than he. I don't think Booker has a genuine chance. I simply don't, any more than you think Biden might still run. I think it's possible. We'll see if because Kamala Harris got in early, and there's an 80-20 rule about entering any kind of business situation. You get in early and you gain some of that market share. There's she'll have a leg up on this throughout. She'll be one of the early adopters. Interesting enough, in a way that Warren, by doing the I've got an exploratory committee and all that kind of stuff, softened the entrance that she might have, and she may benefit from it, but it's hard to say so, because the idea is that she entered without entering in the first place, whereas Kamala Harris just came kind of gangbusters, big crowd, immediate announcement, no footsie about it, just immediately. This is true, Maureen. You are more qualified than Trump. This is true. Find a lot of folks on our left wing deprecate Kamala Harris for being a prosecutor and at the same time cheer on Robert Mueller. Yeah, it makes no sense, Carl. I don't like some of Kamala Harris' actions as AG. She focused more on the letter of the law than actual justice, from what I've seen of it. Well, to her, that has to believe that she separated the two, that she didn't believe that the letter of the law is justice, and that equal application of the letter of the law is the easiest way to justice. You can disagree with her on that, but that doesn't mean she wasn't seeking justice. She just had a different attitude about it. And it certainly wasn't that she was her idea was she was for letting people who were guilty of crimes get away with it. Yeah. Hope you had a measles vaccination. How Washington State is in the middle of an outbreak. Yeah, a long time ago. I'm not going to get measles anytime soon, I don't think. Buchel saying show is pretty blasé on Biden, especially Frank Conniff. I like Joe Biden is a decent human being. He's a great guy, and he would make a fantastic president. End of story. And I think he'd make a good candidate against Trump. Like, there is no two ways about it. There don't have to be any caveats about his race, his age, or his gender, any more than there has to be a caveat about anybody else's race, age, or gender. And it's a mistake to even start fighting those fights inwardly. The most important thing is denying Trump a second term, because damage has to be undone. Obama also followed the letter of the law that made a lot of people mad, but that's your job. You can still push the envelope, but you have to enforce. True. I have to get out of here. See you next time. AIPAC owns Congress lobbying for Trump is Israel first. No, he isn't. Stop typing in all caps. Anti-Semite trolls just removed. Yeah, it's just like you can be part of the conversations, and I don't mind that you believe that, but don't type in all caps and think you can, bully your way into the conversation, dummy. I've noticed that what seems to be an organized online attack on Harris from an apparent left flank. Yeah, that's a lot of bots. No problem. Need to concentrate on what their policies will be as pres. Please let's not have the horse race approach like 2016 was. There's going to be some degree like that because there's a difficult circumstance in terms of when you're dealing with that volume of people, they're just not going to have time for an in-depth conversation about all these candidates. Admit how all caps grabs your attention. It grabs everybody's attention. That's why it's not fair to everybody else's conversation. I wonder where their IP addresses are from. Yeah, Macedonia, Brazil. They've been bouncing a lot of them through Brazil. Cortez, always forgetting her first name for soon. It's funny that Cortez is her last name, considering the anti-colonizer attitude that's been floated a lot lately in the language that's come up since the movie Black Panther came out and colonizer became a big phrase or whatever, because Cortez is the guy who colonized and killed the Aztecs and was responsible for the the smallpox that wiped out most of the native Indians in Mexico and the west coast of the United States. All the Spanish words for all the places that are in California are not native Mexican words. Those people were killed by Spanish colonizers who spoke Spanish. So, and Cortez was was the primary commander of that. But somehow that's Cortez does not get kind of the same attention that Columbus does, and maybe it does in Mexico. I haven't been down there having a conversation about that or whatever, but they're basically on equal footing as far as the dead. I think Cortez's body count actually might be higher. And then got a beautiful sea named after him. Yep. I think she's too young to be important. That's what people say to me. I happen to love her guts. No, of course she's not too young to be important. She's just too young to be president is what's up. She's just, yeah, and that's fine. She's got time. She's got value. She'll be there for a while. I don't think she's not going to, she'll be able to stay in there for a while. I think it'd be great if she worked her way up and became senator and, I'm right about AOC will backfire against them, especially with younger voters. I think to some degree, yeah. You grew with Neil deGrasse Tyson that Columbus coming to America was the best thing that ever happened. The best thing that ever happened? No, but none of us are alive if he doesn't. So anybody who would change that would eliminate their own existence. History has a lot of gnarly stuff in it. If you want to relitigate stuff that happened in the 1600s, it's a fool's errand. What are you doing now to make sure people are equal? What are you doing now to make sure, people are seen and cared for? Like, it's just a weird conversation to even have. Like, you don't have a choice. None of us have a choice about what Columbus did or Cortez did, for that matter, or even what Hitler did to some degree. What do you do with your life? And like, this is what I was saying yesterday on Twitter when I was like, if you're online and you're complaining about racists and bigots and homophobes and whatnot, and you don't know CPR, grow up. Your voice matters, but for crying out loud, like, that shouldn't take place of your ability to contribute in the world. I really like Julian Castro and most of the others. Julian Castro is great and a good politician. He's never going to get elected with the last name Castro. Like, you just count Florida out and every red state. Forget it. With the last name Castro, it's not happening. Not for 50 to 100 years. It just isn't. Prior to the predictions that human society will collapse in 12 years, which is why I never had kids, AOC will have her shot in the whole line. Died off. Society's not going to collapse in 12 years or even in 100. Yeah, no, it's going to keep thundering along. They said that about Hussein Obama. Yeah, but Obama didn't have the weight of Cold War Florida, Cubans and Hispanics hating that name for generations. The Hussein part they tacked on, it never worked. But Barack Obama sounded like a cool guy. To me, to most Americans, it was like, it sounded cool, like Lamar Odom's name sounds cool. It wasn't offensive to them. Castro's is. And it's not because I wouldn't vote for him, because, like, I don't give a crap about the name Castro. I'm just telling you, there's a lot of people who wouldn't. There's enough people who wouldn't, let's just say. We elected a guy with the middle name Hussein. Yeah, the middle name Hussein, not the last name Castro. It's a huge, you know, it is a big difference. Are you planning on catching Battle Angel Alita this month? No, I'm not, because every time I see the ad, it just looks like a cutscene to a video game. There's not enough like human CGI interaction in it for me, and it just literally looks like the cutscenes. You know, stuff you click like A to get past in a video game so you can get to playing it. However, the generation of Cuban Floridians is dying out. Yeah, but they have children who believe this as well. You know what I mean? Like you could argue that the children of the old racist South are dying, but they've got plenty of young ones that believe what they believe, and that's not going away anytime soon. Castro is not an electable name, I'm telling you. And again, it's not about quality. Like we live in a branding age. It's just gonna kill them in certain areas. And again, even a Hispanic name is gonna be. It's just not gonna fly in so many areas. It's gonna be one of those ones where there's a bunch of people who just don't feel comfortable voting for a Castro. There you go. Could a guy named John Hitler Lincoln get elected? No. But you're also saying that Hussein and Hitler are on the same level or commonality. Middle name Hussein, which means the handsome one. In the case of Obama, like Hussein's a common refrain like Ali or those kind of things in a name. Hitler is not very specific. Be right back. Keep an eye out for trolls. We will. Don't worry. Too many cutscenes in modern games. One reason I don't play them anymore. Yeah. Primary AOC articles are lack sources and suspected have been planted to create the BS Dem Civil War narrative. So hopefully the Trump name will be crap soon. And it is crap. They're already peeling it off buildings. Milkman Normus dubious as you consider some of those sources to tell me they indeed have some have the idea. Sorry, it's what am I into? Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Castro, bad president name, good motor oil name. That's entirely possible. Yeah. There are legitimate reasons for Democrats to argue policy and disagree vehemently on stuff. It will not be covered as in the news as a breakdown of policy in a way that helps refine the message. It'll be just they only know it as a war right now. That's the only thing. Trump has been a punchline since the 90s. I agree. I mean, The Apprentice was embarrassing. Like Celebrity Apprentice, I was ashamed for everybody who went on there. Anytime somebody I liked ended up on the Celebrity Apprentice, I was disgusted. It was pitiful. Castro name has been happily selling sofas and mattresses for generations now. It's entirely possible. That's true. But it is absolutely not when it comes to a governmental level. Imagine getting a letter in the mail telling your name has been discontinued by humanity. Hitler. Yeah. Mr. Hilda? Be surprised how many still love Trump, though. It's awful. No, I wouldn't be surprised. Apprentice was hilarious. Arsenio, yeah. Well, I went to school named Castro in Mission, Texas, on the border in the 1950s. They'll actually get you in Germany if you dress up like a Nazi. Well, you mean they'll snatch you up or they'll understand you? Gary Busey? Yeah. One hadn't considered, but it's folks like me who are whites raised in a cave like in the 50s. Hispanics have friends with that list. Yeah, I'm just telling you it's not going to happen. Just because people love crap doesn't mean make crap any less crap. This is true. I think Donald actually signs his name Trump. If you look closely. Yeah, it is funny. Like his kind of cocaine EKG. His signature looks like the EKG of somebody who snorts Adderall and lives off Diet Coke. If you really look at it, it's just or a seismograph. Only reason AOC may have gotten a seat on the Finance Committee in the House is because Now, the public is much more aware, at least voters, scrutinizing people on it for appearance of vice. No, I think she's a rising star, and they gave her that seat on the finance committee because she's willing to talk, like she's like a voice for a progressive tax, and is okay with taking the fight to him. Welcome back, Carl. I'm sorry you have the flu. I wish you were feeling better. How your sniff gifs were hilarious. Thank you. I was very proud of those. I don't know if you guys saw those, but I made the sniff gif and the slat fence. I was very proud of those. How, what's the deal with the Trump tax book playing on TO, and is that an emoluments issue? I'm not sure what you're referring to, Edward. I'll have to look. Oh, is it on the news, or what are you talking about? The Apprentice represented everything to me that I can't stand about most reality shows. Yeah, it's not a reality show. It's a game show. Celebrity Apprentice was a game show. It's not a reality host. He's a game show host. Anytime there's a prize and you have to compete, it's a game show. Donald Trump was a game show host. I hosted a game show. I was a game show host. Like, call it what it is. You know, Celebricadabra. That was a game show. I was on a game show. Celebrity Duets was a game show. It wasn't a reality show. None of these are reality shows. Yeah, Survivor's a game show. Why is the left freaking out over this Howard Schultz guy? Because of the appearance that he would take votes from Democrats because he leans in a more progressive direction, at least in theory, because of his socially liberal policies in dealing with his company and the like. But his economic policies are, kind of lean so far right out of the gate they were, that he was kind of jettisoned immediately. And actually, the fear is, now more on the right that he would take votes from them. So how far is too far with abortion? On a personal level, I'm not for them, but for the life of the of the woman, I think there are like a 4.5 month, 5 month normal extension. I think there should be a 3-month limit on elective abortions. That's my own personal feeling on it. I think a woman should have the right to choose, but as far as the moral line on it, what I feel it is, I think there should be a 3-month on elective abortions, and then beyond that, only to save the life of the mother. But I also think that anybody who is, quote, pro-life should fight for every other possible option. That if someone feels like, I'm going to have to put my child up for adoption, the world of adoption and foster care is top notch. Because one of the reasons why people have abortions is they fear for a child they put up for adoption or foster if they can't take care of it. They can't. That's my own personal. Here in Rhode Island, just passed a bill saying you can do partial birth abortion. No, the bill in Rhode Island deals with the fact that a stillborn child can be resuscitated once it's outside the womb in an attempt to revive it. And this deals with, babies that are basically born in the same state as Cherry Shivo, with liquefied brains and incomplete hearts and all kinds of stuff like that, and keeping them alive and feeling pain until their body quits naturally. That's a horrifying and difficult decision for a woman to make. And in the case of some of these women who don't have prenatal care or proper diet or nutrition during pregnancy, and they have massive fetal deformities or genetic deformities, and the child is either stillborn, dies during birth, is resuscitated, has an incomplete spine, an incomplete brain, and those kind of things, and basically chokes to death outside the womb. The idea that you could have an abortion before that moment so that the baby doesn't have to live 10 minutes choking on its own tissue is a decision in that bill that's available to the mother. This idea that they can electively abort a baby right as it's coming out because they just don't feel like having one anymore is just a garbage argument. Nobody buys it. Any doctor who did that would go to jail. Like, And don't even talk to me if you're not worried about, again, shoring up the foster and and the adoption availability, making sure that kids have school lunches. There's, both public and private education that's affordable, so that when you do have a child, you have options. If you were, born impoverished, that people aren't making, or you could eliminate through actual care for children the elective abortions based on economic need almost entirely, but they don't. Yes, Cool Radius Paul. Seriously, can't you Disney people practice common sense? And I don't know, read what? I had an abortion, but I had to give up a baby for adoption. I have had children, one of which died shortly afterwards. I know how deeply personal the decision is. Right. Where's Leo? He's a TV character. Also, fewer abortions if we had living wage, Medicare for all, subsidized child care, affordable housing, good public transportation, etc., etc. Big debate about the extraordinary life-saving methods used by NICUs and the long-term quality of life issues for severely medically disabled people. Yes, I agree. But, and again, unless you're willing to, you can't expect people, it's so amazing how the Republicans will, on the one hand, expect mothers to carry to term and give birth to severely deformed children that may only survive minutes outside the womb and simply die in pain. But at the same time, cut back on the ADA. Let's say this child, they do decide, they elect to have the child. They manage to, the child is viable mentally but not physically, and is, and they do, the hospital miraculously has the ability to keep this child alive for a length of time, but it will be confined to a wheelchair, need a respirator to breathe, need, educational and cognitive therapy just to be able to communicate and stuff. The Republicans are hell-bent on cutting all of that stuff. Don't talk to me about how much you care about life if you're not willing to actually assist with the living of it. Like, it's a foolish argument. Like, it's just one of those things. Would we have to give up something to get health care for all? Well, I think here's one thing that we would have to do is take more responsibility individually for our health as an act of patriotism. Because there are those who wouldn't be able to because of their birth, hormonal issues, having been poisoned by their job, elements outside their control that have eliminated their health, getting cancer, those kind of things, whatever. While the rest of us would have to take greater responsibility to eliminate as much elective medical cost as possible. It would require, and that's one thing that's the responsibility part of a right that I don't think a lot of people talk a lot about. Medicare for all is sort of the Second Amendment argument on the left, that the Republicans want to make the argument that everybody should just be able to have a gun, and because it's a right, period, end of story. You shouldn't have to take classes, have insurance, have trigger locks, have fingerprint safes, childproof locks on guns, limited ammunition, no bump stocks, no giant clips, any of that stuff. Like, they just want a free for all in that regard or whatever. And there's an element of in the conversation about Medicare for all, what health and wellness looks like on a personal responsibility level that I think the left could actually have at the same time that would make it much easier. To sell as an idea to everyone. Abortion is not about killing, it's about destroying, it's about punishing women for having sex. You have to give up paying for health. No, you wouldn't, because you just pay for it through taxation, and the taxes would pay for health insurance. We'd all pay for it in sort of an even sense, and some people would pay more for others than, a good portion of people would pay less for it than what they receive as far as benefits, and then a good portion would have to pay more for it than they receive in benefits. GOP wants to cut everything because they want everyone as desperate and poor as possible, so they'll be willing to work for less out of that desperation. I think you're onto something. Aaron's saying the billionaires would, and we would pay more taxes, but it would be less overall than paying for private insurance. There aren't enough billionaires to pay for Medicare for all. I think, they talk about this, the 77% tax never passed. It just won't. What we could focus on, what could actually get done, is a 1 or 5% tax on every stock trade payment. Period. Anything over a $5 tax, any stock costs more than $5. Every time it's bought or sold, penny tax. Every purchase, every sale. That would cover infrastructure for the United States until it was completely rebuilt, and then the rest of it would start a fund that you could actually fund an infrastructure bank with that money, but fully fund the infrastructure bank, and then within 5 years you could be paying off the Social Security trust fund debt with that money, and you could do that within 10, 15 years. Any updates on Ayn Rand Paul and his Canadian medical treatment? No. Yeah, him getting his hernia treated over there. Oh, thank you, Lindsay. Thanks very much. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Al Sparks, you're my favorite actor, director ever. Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Thoughts on anti-BDS laws? Sorry, I walked away for a second. Anti-BDS laws. I don't think there should be any. I think people should have the right to divest from anything, in their own life that they find is sort of in violation of their moral code. Everybody's got to pay taxes, and we all kind of take the price of citizenry is you don't get to agree with everything that the government does. But insofar as companies or organizations or whatever that are NGOs that are outside of the normal foray of taxation, you should be able to do whatever you want. You can't just advocating for anything. That's a free speech right. Yeah. Subject stock purchases for sales tax. Sales tax would be a great revenue for the states too. Yep. If men could get pregnant, we would not be having this conversation. I think we would. I mean, I know there are enough pro-life women out there. This is a religious decision for a lot of people, and they wouldn't care who was having to carry it to term. How I've decided I like the MAGA hats the way that way we know who the idiots are. Saw a guy at Jewel the other day and had a good laugh with another guy after he walked in. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly nice when they wear a badge and you can tell. 70-20 voted for anti-BDS. 70-20 what? If men could be pregnant, we would be women. Right. Yeah, I mean that was Rubber Chicken 360 630. That was the one argument that Carlin always made. Was that if you're you're pre-born, you're fine. If you're preschool, you're fucked. Was the argument that he was making. Thoughts on Jussie Smollett hoax are real? I don't know. I think ultimately any kind of attack like that is horrendous. I tend to these days reserve judgment until they catch somebody in those situations, or the person continues to look. Anytime somebody calls off like I don't care, I'm not helping, that always concerns me. Like he wasn't turning his phone over, and I know it's a privacy thing a lot of times, and celebrities have to deal with this more than other people, but he really needs to give. If he was on the phone and his manager overheard it, he needs to give him his phone if they need it. If you're trying to catch the person who, the people who did this, and you really do care about it, you got to do everything, because the problem I have with it is they're still out there. If they did it to him, they'll do it to somebody else. And if you're not, if any of it, you're like, I'm not going to help with that part of the investigation. I'm like, it endangers another human being. That's my problem with, and so I'm waiting to see if there's, because I don't know what's going on behind the scenes or what the conversations that they're having. So I can't really tell. He may have already satisfied that part of it, but whatever. Abortion is not a religious argument. It's used by religion to control people. No, it's a religious argument because certain religions have outlawed it simply because they're being out procreated by other religions, so they make abortion, contraceptive, and divorce illegal, so they can keep having more babies for that. But it's a control, but not just of women, but of the entire family unit and their followers. That idea, whatever. But the religious argument, is there, and there are people of faith who genuinely believe that if you get pregnant, you've been blessed with a child and you have it. Doesn't mean a lot of the people that are arguing it right now aren't hypocrites, because they certainly are, but it doesn't mean there is no. It's kind of the same thing I was having the conversation with that guy about. Can't say there's no collusion. There's obviously been some, and you can argue that it didn't matter to you, or you don't think it rises to the level of impeachment. That's a different argument, but you can't say there's nothing. And so the same thing with religion. Yeah. See the fire calling out Israel for the attack on the U.S. Liberty, killing over 30 Americans. No, I didn't see that, but I'm aware of it. Please comment on the Amazon addicted Americans overlooking sweatshops and now washroom birth that ended in a baby found in a garbage can. Alan Neil Young called it. I didn't hear the story about that particular sweatshop story. That isn't new to Amazon in particular. But I do think there are two downsides to the availability and how we've kind of come to rely on Amazon as our way of getting everything. Is that there is anything that's involves less and less human interaction in the normal just buying and selling of things and engaging with people or whatever. The less you have to do that, the more isolated you become, and the less capable you become of negotiating the more difficult parts of human interaction. So the more you're you engage in a sort of mechanical sense, buying tickets electronically, buying clothing electronically, and that kind of stuff, and you don't see anybody, even at a register where you could say hello and goodbye and all that kind of stuff. The negotiation of normal social interaction is too important, and we kind of that's one of the big losses that we do with that. And by doing that, we outsource the difficult parts of our of human relation. We don't see when it has unintended negative consequences. Will the driverless car change the game and put millions out of work? No, because somebody's going to have to create more intricate roads. They're going to have to be more refined. There'll be more mechanics. There's still, every industry creates a secondary industry. It sounds like, will the horseless carriage, change the hoofing industry? Good grief. People use the same religion to fight against doing the will of God as written by the gospel as they do to fight for abortion. Yeah, that's always the problem, is selective enforcement of anything. Just the video of the historian who answered Dell's question, where has a 70% tax to America? It worked here in the 1950s during the middle class boom. Yeah, but it also economically can be traced to the gas collapse and the difficulties in the 70s. Because economic policies, when they're instituted, they benefit for a while, and then the ramifications of them are felt later. And then what happens is the overcorrection is to completely undermine them, which is what Reagan did. And then you get this vacillating tax code that goes, like a window washer from the extreme to the sublime back and forth instead of finding something that's actually manageable. Question like, there's rabbit anti-Semitism. Northam is making us in the 30s, the 80s. Which part? Because it applied to certain things, but it didn't apply to industry. It did vacillate quite a bit between personal wealth taxes and corporate wealth business. Still ought to make. Thoughts on Louis K's leaked set? I have my issues morally with Louis' stand-up anyways, even before all this stuff went down. I think anybody should have a chance to actually rehabilitate themselves. That does not at all seem like he is... that's not what he's attempting to do. And I thought his comments about the Parkland kids were particularly grotesque. And he can go pound sand. Showing Rutger Bregman, he's the historian who lambasted Davos for not talking about billionaires paying their fair share of taxes. Okay. Guns kill children all the time, but try to use religion to fight that. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Hal. It's a real tough issue. I think women who give birth to that child at a secure Amazon is being charged for options of low-paying job market suck. And we as a society have a responsibility to make sure that women who find themselves in that situation have options. And this, we've tried that over the years. And there are, programs where you can drop off a newborn at a hospital and not have to say a thing, that still exists, I try to shop from other businesses too, as Amazon is too big. It's become almost like a garage sale, and quality going down with everyone hawking their wares. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, get out of the house. Self-driving cars, we can't maintain roads suitable for anything less than the truck from Damnation Alley. I don't understand what makes a successful comedian. Honestly, Louis C.K. was supposed to be the comedian's comedian, but I never found him funny enough to watch. I mean, I have arguably my bit about screw old people in defense of babies came from the fact that I morally and philosophically have a difference with Louis C.K. about his sort of padded soft argument about the annoyance that children can be. And I find people who make fun of their own wife and kids in this kind of their annoying attitude, or they're stupid, or children are, ignorant, weak, or dumb, and you're like, they're new, I found that wanting, so I wrote that bit almost as a philosophical rebuttal. Northam now claims he's not in that photo at all. Oh, he's having a statement right now. Yesterday was the first time I saw the yearbook photo. Super weird that it's that like, I don't know if what he's saying is true. I can't know. But I do think it's weird that the school put that picture in there in 1984. You know what I mean? Like, if somebody at my high school had that picture and said, we'd like to put this in the yearbook, they would, I mean, first you get expelled for just even asking. But who would actually get, like, who would print that? They make copies of it. The school did. He said it was his page in the yearbook. Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like, and he says that's the first time he saw the picture. I did not wear the racist costumes or attend the party where the yearbook photo was taken. Yeah, and I don't know what you do in that circumstance. Like if that really happened and you were like, yeah, I got a copy of the yearbook, but I didn't even look at it. I don't, and then looking at it, like that's hideous. And nothing about his policies makes you think like that's in line with who he is. So it's a super weird thing. Could yearbook page photo have been doctored to insert that photo? I don't think so. But I know my high school would have never printed that page. I think he appeals more to men and so do the other comedians. Yeah, definitely. It's also very strange that it's taken this long for it to come out. Terrible, awful research by the GOP, to say the least. Yeah, that's what was the Ed Gillespie campaign we're saying. It's possible. I don't remember what pictures I submitted for my undergrad yearbook. I didn't, I'm like, there's a picture of me in my high school yearbook for New Trier, like sophomore year or something like that, and I have a prop cigarette in my mouth from when we did True West, and it's I made it myself. It's a dowel rod with paper wrapped around it, and I've got like sunglasses on, and I'm doing it or whatever. But I'm in like a group of other people or whatever. But if you looked at it, you'd think I was a smoker. Never, I don't smoke. I've never smoked, but like I didn't. That picture got referenced to me, in the book, but I didn't ever suggest it or something. And this is high school though. I didn't go to med school. I have no idea what the hell that's about. Like that seems weird. But if he's saying that's not him, and either of he never okayed the picture, and that's not him or whatever, and it doesn't line up with, seemingly it does not line up with what kind of politician he is and has been. What would you do in that situation if it was you? If somebody said, "Hey, did you look at your actual yearbook? Did you get a copy of your yearbook?" "No, I didn't get a copy of it." "Why?" Look at this. You know what I mean? Like, was his medical school yearbook, apparently he was supposedly about 25 years old at the time. Yeah, but does that mean, if it's not him in the picture and he didn't get a copy of it and he didn't bother, we swapped, Brad. We did both parts. So at the act, we changed costumes and swapped roles. That's how we did the production. Let's say the Democrat nominee was damaging info about them 1 week before the election, and only CNN has it. Should they release it? Let's say the Democrat nominee has damaging info come out about them 1 week before the election. Well, if it's information that CNN only received a week before the election, and were to assume it's completely real, depends on what the damaging information is, that's pretty close to an election, and that's not a lot of time to verify it. Plus his college was 64% black. None of it makes sense. Yeah, it's super weird. And like I said, he does not, his policies have not been racist. If anything, quite the opposite. He seems to, it's a tough one, but he's having this. He's calling it offensive. He's taking questions. He didn't just make a speech and split. And again, I said this yesterday, but all the people who are calling for him to resign immediately were totally okay with the anti-Semitic stuff that the women on the Women's March board had said, and were defending them. And one of the women, like when she was talking about Farrakhan, refused to walk it back, refused to disavow anti-Semitism, just wouldn't do it. Like literally, like, is anti-Semitism wrong? I don't stand by everything he says. Is anti-Semitism wrong though? I don't stand like you know what I mean? Like, it was weird. If anything, I'll continue with my hairs. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I try to live at that standard. Well, I love the 80s videos of John Malkovich. Live play. If your name was on a page with someone wearing blackface, wouldn't you know? I honestly don't know, because I know in like high school everybody got theirs signed. I don't know how seriously people in college. I didn't go to college. Do you have your college yearbook? What's on your page in your college yearbook? I like, that's honestly not something I can answer. because I would have a copy of it. I would know. I don't know how common that is compared to high school. I'm old, 68. Few comics these days are funny to me. I don't find mere crudity and foul language funny. Carlin was funny because he had intellectual basis for finding the ridiculousness of life. I agree. Patrice O'Neill or Greg Giraldo? Patrice. I mean, they're both great, but Patrice. So, yeah. Sorry, I'm catching up reading the chat room. My wife was in the attic now digging for a college yearbook. I can't wait to see it. If you know the book exists, you know your photos in it. It's human nature, I think. I had no idea. Well, me, because I'm vain, I would know where my picture was. If you know, I had no idea there was such a thing as med school yearbook before yesterday. Yeah, me too. That's what I mean. Like, if my college even had a yearbook, I didn't know about it and I didn't care. Yeah, that's the weird part. Like, high school, absolutely. College, I don't know. I went to, what was it? I went to Columbia College. I don't think they did yearbooks. On the Clinical 12, at the Daily Kos addressed the right-wing attack from 35 years ago to try and make it today's news. A racist Republican Party wants to call out racism. Forget about it, yeah. I used to love Greg Giraldo. Yeah, he's a decent dude. Yep, I saw that too. Disavowing Farrakhan's anti-Semitic views should be a no-brainer, especially for anyone who comes from a historically oppressed minority. Always odd. Anti-Semitism is wrong. That's why Benjamin Netanyahu's actions pain me, because I'm waiting for every time someone feels wrong, comment on it. Yeah. And Ralphie May. Yeah, Ralphie was a sweetheart. He was probably in a frat that did stupid stunts. Yeah, the interesting thing about that picture when I saw it was, because it was in a yearbook, that it looked like two guys went to a party together dressed as a black guy and a Klansman as friends or as a couple or something. Like that's why they were together in the picture, because that was the gag. Like, look, we'll go as, both of us are going like we're buddies, like we're going together, and that's funny. It's stupid and it's, it's completely dismissively racial, but it's not. It's a different kind of racism than the hostile racism that is trying to denigrate. It's mocking of racism, maybe even in their mind. That's the tough part. But like, you can't tell. But based on how he behaves as an adult, I don't see that being the problem. Unlike Kavanaugh, for example, whose feelings towards women is subservient, his weird dismissal of his wife, his odd kind of shoulder grabbing, just the sort of generalized creepiness of Kavanaugh in general in modern life makes, when his past came up, it wasn't in stark relief to his modern behavior. It looked like it was affirming of what kind of man he is and what view he has of women's rights, for example. Our yearbooks were paid for by student fees and everybody could get one for free. Some kids never even bothered, right? I saw it that way, Hal. I thought they were mocking racism. Yeah, that's what it looked like. I mean, it was a bad shot, but there's a difference between people who are accidentally racial in a negative way and people who are actively racist. There has to be. You know what I mean? That would be the argument about what a microaggression would be versus being a Klan member. There's obviously a distinct difference. I don't think Northam has a bad history of voting or bad behavior. That's exactly why I think that's, yeah. That's funny, Bob. Yeah, friends acting as enemies for a party. That's what it looks like to me. It looked, and I don't know if he's telling the truth about whether it was him or not, but it looks like two guys went to a party, in a way like, look, we went together as this, like, opposites attract the kind of joke thing, which is in horrible taste, but is very different than going, to perpetuate violence in that circumstance. There's a lot of accidental negative to it. There is no good side to it, but there's a difference between the context of that picture and somebody who's there specifically for racist reasons. And if what's true, if that's true about 65% of the school being black, it would be hard for me to believe that that's a picture where a picture ended up in the yearbook that there weren't other students of color at that party, and I would be curious to know what they thought of it at the time. So, yeah, the blackface is still awful. It's not. I'm not saying it's it is the kind of thing you bow and scrape and apologize for from a genuine point of view. But there are different reasons. There's an ignorant reason to do it, and then there's a hateful, mocking reason to do it. And one you can come back from, I would say. The ignorant can learn. The hateful, probably not. And again, he's saying he's not either one of them in the picture. So, anyways, this is what happens when you dissect the grotesque parts of life, There's no excuse for blackface. Sure there is. It's 1920 and you were raised a racist, and it wasn't horrible yet, or you weren't aware of how horrible it was. And then you learned later, and you went, oh my God, I've been horrible. That's more of a reason than an excuse, I guess, technically, so touche. Blackface is just something people today should realize what to do, and perhaps if Northam admitted this photo was something in his past at the beginning of his political career, maybe. Well, that's the thing. If he's telling the truth, it wasn't him. That's the tough part. They should have gotten a black friend and it would have been all right. I agree, Brad. Through Joe Biden, he came to Michigan to support Fred Upton. Republican collected a cool $200,000 in the process. In a red district where they might not have, there's no Dem at all, and he could get a Republican who was more apt to, to side with genuine rule of law and the actual function of government versus, where a Democrat's not going to win at all, and I don't know if that's what he was doing, but that would be the one area where I would be okay with that. The titles of your streams always make me laugh. Oh, I just saw the name of this one. Oh, thank you. I try. In 1984, you want to make a racial statement, you make it with that person, not in place of that person. That I agree with. The thing is, Governor Northam is in the same boat as Senator Frank, and fellow Democratic politicians are calling for his resignation. I agree. Although, a lot of, I'm not listening to what he's saying. Admits he once darkened his face for a Michael Jackson costume at a separate dance contest in San Antonio, Texas. That's weird. He dressed up as Michael Jackson in 1980-something. Yeah, I give him credit for having the conversation. He's taking questions. This is really uncomfortable and horrible. He does not seem to be look at the look on my face when I'm staring over there, though. Ooh. He does not seem, like a hateful, monstrous guy. And if this is an education point and some cleaning up can be done, I think that moves us all closer to better human beings. Gotta do reverse blackface to do Michael Jackson. Compare Obama to Trump, we have nothing to prove, right? Do it to prove their purity to principles of superior to Republicans. We don't have to do this yet. It was the opposite. Hal Upton district was top tier pickup chance. Oh well, beg my pardon, and I don't know what the logic is in that. Then I'll totally school the Trump caller. Yeah, I mean, it was easy to do early in the Trump presidency. It's super easy to do now. Many lynchings to justify a Klan costume or a blackface. Yeah, and some people might have thought they were so distant from that past that history had moved on um, in such a way that mocking it was a possibility. I mean, that's where the joke too soon comes from. Northam admitted he was in the picture, but he won't say which person he was. I thought he just said he didn't darken his face in it. Do not fully expect Virginians will believe me about my account of racist yearbook. Mm-hmm. They sold their soul to the devil with Trump. Right? Clinton has been anti-ACA since the past. Oh, God, forget it. Michael Jackson was a talent. End of conversation. No one can deny Michael could sing and dance. No one is denying that. Just saying the cost of having him was too high. Interesting take on the Biden campaign for Republican. That would be the only reason it would make sense to me. That didn't turn out to be the case, so no, bad. But bitter and cynical this morning. Good morning. What's your guys' take on the Jussie Smollett situation? Because I've been reserving judgment on a lot of it. Initially, my reaction when that happens to anybody is to be horrified, and it should never happen. And then and then the details got very dramatic and curious, and so I'm just kind of I feel like I'm in a holding pattern about it. Like I'm worried that the other shoe will drop and this will turn out to be something else. That's my concern. I think a few people are worried that way and are just kind of like, the what? Okay, I'm not saying anything. This will work itself out. Does that make sense? No exclusive for Blackfish in 1984. That I agree with. I do realize his father was most likely abusive. Michael. Yes, this is true. There's no video of a person of interest regarding the attack. Yeah. Honestly, no. Please say a video of him with a Subway sandwich outside his house. No attack. Yeah. I think the media is shaping this so that we'll doubt the story. No, I think the media is supportive of it. The doubt that I've seen more anywhere else is on black YouTube channels and black Twitter. And because I was always like, you think it's because he's a black queer man? No. Jussie Smollett, like any press, is good press. Yeah. Maybe a sex scene gone wrong. I think he possibly was looking for drugs or a fling, and that went wrong. Yeah, that seems to be on as far as kind of in the world of YouTube and Twitter, because in this particular situation I was like, if it seems a little hinky, what's the what's the black Twitter and black YouTube take on it or whatever? I was kind of looking around, I'm like, if I find it curious, how do they find it? I'm just, looking, and a lot of them are being pretty overtly negative on it. So I'm waiting for Trump to tweet about Northam issue. I bet his aides are begging him, please don't. Yeah. I'm afraid that it's going to be another Tawana brawling matter. Yeah, I mean, I think that's why I'm in stasis about it. It's not so much that I don't necessarily believe him. It's just that it's so hinky that I'm like, I feel, I think some people are just a little bit burnt, and so they're a little bit like, okay, let's just wait and see. Let the FBI and the Chicago police, follow it, to its conclusion. And the most important thing is that if and when he was, assaulted by anybody, they need to be stopped, because the idea that he would somehow be the only person they would do this to is absurd. With you on that, how something seems like a shoe is going to drop somewhere. Yeah, that was the thing. I'm keeping my powder dry on this incident. He doesn't seem like a person who engages in drama. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, there's this point where I'm like, sorry, there's a black YouTube and Twitter. Damn, I didn't know that. Well, I mean, there's just YouTube, yeah, there's a lot of like individual channels that are just like black hosts, and they talk about issues specific to the community, is what I mean. In the same way that I guess there are the Gavin McGinnises of the world that are like 100% white. You know, Story sucks. Going out for a Subway sandwich at 2 a.m. Okay, I would rather stay hungry, but I'm not. The weird part about that was it was like 18 degrees below zero. I like Tim Black TV on YouTube myself. Oh, I don't know that I know him, but rumor has it that he was being stalked for some time. At least that is what I heard from my sources in law enforcement. Yeah, he got those letters, but and everybody in the Empire group got those, and that's one of the areas where it makes sense to me that it, while the details of it, that the reality of it, that he just randomly came across two guys in MAGA hats and ski masks who had bleach and a noose with them, and they were just happened to recognize him from with his winter coat on and his hoodie up, and and they attacked him. It makes more sense that they may have been stalking him for a time, that it was targeted based on his status on the show, as opposed to this kind of random attack that that these guys are roaming the streets, because in that area that makes no sense. I mean, no, thank you. An initial reservation about the details are this Smollett. However, I do not fault him for not giving up his phone. Too many potential privacy issues there, just to establish one phone call. But I guess it would seem to me that just give him the access to the phone records would be the. No, thank you. Housekeeping. I don't think she heard me, so expect a barge in. Restaurant. Restaurant in the Bay Area banned MAGA hats recently and then reversed the ban a day or two later. I mean, you can't do it because it's, can't ban MAGA hats. Yeah, you can't do it. It's a free speech issue, and once you do that, you go, okay, are you not allowing any political wear whatsoever? I mean, it's just nothing happened in Streeterville at 3 a.m. Try rush. Yeah, housekeeping is always the start of a good point. Calm down. Anyways, we're in Chicago, north side. He was on the north side, Streeterville. Again, it's not even that it's my first. It certainly wasn't my first reaction to doubt him, and I still feel bad for him. I don't like, but I think after a few of these things have hit the news and then been dialed back, there's a point where you're like, okay, I'm just gonna wait. I'm gonna hold my outrage until the police finish what they're looking for. That makes sense. Not a free speech issue. The government was imposing the ban. Yeah, but you're going to have to, like, as a corporation most of the time, or as a business, you're going to have a real problem, like, sort of picking and choosing. That people have to remove an article of clothing to come into your business, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Bet he wasn't walking his dog. I don't know. If it meant the dog would have been harmed too, I don't like that. Fair enough, Hal. Me too. Yeah. I mean that's reasonable. I think it's certainly, let's see. I wouldn't agree with that. Even as much as I hate MAGA hats, I've been harassed at malls in Puerto Rico for wearing spikes, bracelets, and got arguments about it. Yeah. I mean, whenever you set a law or a rule in a business about dress codes or that kind of stuff, you have to understand you're going to have to apply it evenly both to staff and customers alike. So it's tough. Smollett should be able to authorize a PD to get call record from his service provider. Yeah, that would be the thing that I would do, is just have them get the phone records, but not look at my phone, because I think pictures you were sent, and as a famous person, you can get sent some untoward photos. Let's just say. And you may not want to share those with everybody at the police station. That I understand. But at the same time, perhaps the solution is you can talk to Verizon. You know what I mean? Joseph Tyson didn't get bogged down in technicalities of the Rizzuto show in St. Louis reported on that Saturday. Perhaps in a school or workplace, you could discourage certain advertisements, right? But it'd have to be consistent. Is the issue? Going out 18 degrees below zero is not unusual in Chicago. No, that is true. But if you're wealthy and on a television show, you can Grubhub, Postmates, or Uber Eats stuff at 2 o'clock in the morning rather than go out free. They still have Club Excalibur in Chicago across the street from the Rock and Roll McDonald's. I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know. That could get dicey unless they were talking on video and it was captured. They weren't. It was just a phone call, apparently. Which, by the way, okay, you're hungry. You decided to go to Subway at 2 o'clock in the morning. Fine. Why would you call your manager while you're going to Subway to get something to eat at 2 o'clock in the morning if you have to shoot the next day? You know what I mean? That I don't understand. I think his agent lawyer was denied the request so far. Privacy is another issue, of course. I wouldn't want my dealer, because I live in a non-progressive cannabis state, to be outed, right? It wasn't Sub-Zero Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night, yes. Subway's less than a block away. Why bother with Grubhub? Why was he staying at a hotel? He doesn't live in Chicago, does he? Well, they're shooting, so I don't know. But I think he has an apartment there. I think the manager was in the hotel. For O'Hare, close to 30 years, I would tell you about walking the cold. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, I'm not ruling it out. I would go. I would go get my own food at 2 o'clock in the morning if I was hungry. But more than likely, if it was that cold, I would wait till the morning. You know what I mean? It's just hinky. And again, I don't want to dig too deep into it because I have no reason to ultimately doubt the guy. It's just, like I said, this isn't really about him. It's about other circumstances that have come up where you're just kind of like, all right, I don't want to dig too deep and be rude about it. If it turns out to be, as he said, because a lot of times the truth is victims, when they're attacked, their recollection of stuff is uneven, does ebb and flow because it's a traumatic event. Sometimes people are traumatized. They remember every second of everything. Some people are traumatized and basically black out entire details or whatever. So I can forgive him for the fluctuation in some of that, and if I dig too deep, the details do start to bug me. So I think the smart money is on let the police work it out, and they will. They will find out what happened. As a woman, this conversation makes me very uncomfortable. Okay. And how so? But if you have the munchies, you would. Yeah, but I don't get the munchies. Something strange, but he would probably be happy that people were talking. Got up very late in my day too because I had the munchies. Stayed at a hotel when I went to see Hal perform because it was late night. I already thought, though I live here in Vegas, you never know. Brief staycation, right? So strange not to find open restaurants that are in so many states after a certain time. This is true. Because he says he's attacked and everyone is picking apart every single thing he said, trying to find the cracks. It's not that. I think everybody was accepting of it immediately, Ginger. I think the thing that fell apart was that some of the details were so egregious that they seemed almost cartoonish and made everybody go, what? And then the minute you start doing that, then that's when it falls apart. And like I said, there's nothing inherently wrong with questioning the account, wanting it to make sense. But if you find that it doesn't, and in the situation where faking it, if it takes longer than usual for that detail to come out, if it goes on for a long time and it's been false the whole time, the damage is heavier. So I think there's an impetus for people to go, okay, this sounds like crap to me. Wait a second. And then there's other people who are like, look, I know it sounds like garbage, but we need to catch whoever did it, whatever reason they did it for. Or find out if there was no attack and he fell down a flight of stairs and he doesn't want to lose his insurance bond because they think he was drinking and he fell down, and it's going to screw his shooting and it's going to get him in trouble with production, so it's better to make up a story. Like, yeah, if he faked that his career is over, sounds like a pretty high price to pay. Yeah, but if he harmed himself or was harmed by behavior he was engaging in elsewhere, that would get him in trouble with work or make it difficult for him to work, coming up with a cover story that's very extreme to cover what actually happened is like a balancing act, like what weighing the good against the worst, the bad against the worst. That's what I'm saying. The Joe Rogan podcast episode where Brett Weinstein and his Heather of evolutionary biology, there was a section on Me Too, made me think. Exactly, nobody's under attack. If I parse what you said, let's break that down, shall we? It's not a kind of aggression. Yeah. Or if the authorities are holding back info to catch the culprits. It's entirely possible. Again, that's why I'm, like I said, that's why I'm withholding judgment. But I did very distinctly have a kind of like something wonky reaction to it, and that's why I was curious about what everybody else was feeling about it, because I don't think there's a definitive answer. None of us were there. We can't know. And ultimately, the only people that will ultimately know is Jussie himself, his manager, if he was indeed on the phone, and the authorities as they look through all this kind of stuff. The truth will come out in some way or another. The concern becomes, though, that if people make use of an attack, and use an excuse, it sounds like the equivalent of when some white Southern lady gets beat up by her boyfriend or harms herself and then blames two black teens and the whole country's combing the countryside looking for them when she did something herself. If it turns out he did something like that, it makes it harder to push back on that lady because they'll go, well, what about this? It waters the entire conversation down, and it's far more common in the other direction. So you don't need to give them any ammunition, I think is the concern. I think a lot of people went, uh-oh, and that's where I think he's good at the same reaction, Hal, but I don't know anything about the actor making the charge either. I think he's telling the truth because he's still at the podium taking questions. A liar likes to lie and run, just like Trump. Oh, you mean Northam? Yeah. Like I said, I give him credit. He's taken his medicine. He's not, he's admitting it seems to a lot of uncomfortable truth. So I love how quiet it is late at night too. I agree. The cost of it would be too high. Not only would he lose his career, he'd hurt his cause. Well, the issue becomes, what if he was doing something that he thought he came up with something that was unprovable to cover something that was he believes is totally hidden, meaning something happened to him either sexually or in terms of buying drugs or something like that. And his concern is that would be more damaging to his career, so this is a cover. That's the thought on it. There's, and just because it's not a good solution or it's not logical doesn't mean it didn't happen. People make dumb decisions and stuff like that all the time. Like I said, but again, this is just drilling down, and I'd rather not do it. I'd rather let it play out. I'm just curious if people felt that kind of reservation the way I did. Conversation around is very triggering. Well, the conversation has to be had, though, to some degree. You know what I mean? He said he dressed up like Michael Jackson for a party one year, but no blackface. Right. He said he darkened his face, though, which is very weird. I think Governor Northam, going by his record, is indeed someone who did something dumb in his 20s, giving his career the time it is to end up with him resigning. Possibly. Thoughts on the Gillette ad? All ads are aimed at a demographic that is not currently being reached. I unfortunately, I feel like the Gillette ad was aimed at selling more razors to women, not at making men better in any way. Feel that reservation about everything. Okay, but know that, the conversation, there's always strength in being able to have the conversation that makes you uncomfortable. Those initial feelings aren't bad, and it's not your fault for having them, but being able to make it through that conversation and know you're going to be okay on the other end, and that your contribution to the conversation is valuable. The problem with being triggered to the point where you can't engage in a conversation is that we are all denied your valuable input on the actuality, if that makes sense. And anxious feelings about a conversation on almost any topic are completely understandable, considering the heaviness of any given topic. But I would almost argue that anybody who's quote unquote triggered by a conversation probably has an insight into the actuality, the material experience involved in that conversation that's more valuable even the people who are talking about it academically, but because they're, the triggered feeling overwhelms overwhelms you, it limits your engagement in the conversation because it's uncomfortable, whereas you're probably the most valuable person as far as perspective in the conversation. So it's everyone's loss if the conversation shuts down because it triggers you, but it's also, we don't just lose the ability to talk amongst ourselves about it, we also lose the input that you would give that would actually be more valuable, if that makes sense. I'm a survivor, I'm triggered all the time and muddle through, I'm just pointing out the similarity. Mm-hmm. Well, again, Ginger, I think the complaint in this circumstance is, and this would be my question for a survivor, in the same way that, like, what's his name, like, Sheriff Clark dude wears all those badges and ribbons on his jacket and he never was in battle. And so soldiers looking at that with actual PTSD from, seeing a buddy die in battle or losing a limb or having traumatic brain injury or all this stuff, and then this dude walks up and he's wearing fake badges. That stealing valor from people who've actually been through battle, having a conversation about those kind of people is necessary. And I'm not saying that's what Jussie Smollett is doing, but I'm saying that's the argument, that it's potential in this circumstance. That's what people are concerned or worried about. And if that is the case, then it isn't about assault. It's about people using real assault as, that other people have experienced as cover for their own activities in some other area. Does that make sense? Never sent a woman to buy a video game stuff. My wife actually came back with a controller. Think of the feeling you get watching a badly written melodrama and it's an ad for razors. Right. Jussie's lying and the attack didn't happen. Survivors will be the first ones to take him down, myself included. Yeah. But I think the conversation, if certain people hadn't started asking questions about it, it wouldn't, it would kind of be put on autopilot. And then there's this idea that if the people aren't found, the assumption will be is that they do exist, as opposed to they may not. And that's where I think the doubt comes in and has value in a circumstance like this. It's like when a serial killer says they killed more people than they actually killed. There's two problems with that, three actually, but the main one being is that they raise their own body count and inflate themselves, and people feel better about killing that person because they killed 36 people instead of 28. The other problem is that whoever killed the other 8 people doesn't get punished. And on top of that, they are roaming free potentially to do it again. So there's 8 murderers that are running around because they decided to shovel the body count onto this serial killer just to get it off the books. The idea. The question is, what makes them look for actually who did it, or stop looking at some point because it's embarrassing? If the idea is that there was concern that They're not going to find out because it's just a horrible thing in label, but not in actuality, and it's better to, it hurts people to even question it, then they won't bother looking, and the people, if they don't find them for a while, those people will just be gone. It's, where it's tough. They are not lying if they can tell you where the bodies are buried. Not all of them remember all of them. Ted Bundy, that was one of the things. Like, he could tell them where 3 or 4 of them were, but there were 6 or 7 others. Totally agree. I'm still pissed at Alyssa Milano. Won't let arrest is some of the Me Too warrior, and her Netflix show starts off with a girl lying about sexual assault. Right. I mean, there's, look at Asia Argento. I think a lot of people were burned by that too. He'll get his comeuppance, but he is the face of many people who are assaulted who don't come. Yeah, but he can't be if that's not the case. That's the scary part. What if he is, and then it's not? That's the big scary part. Trader Trump and R. Kelly cut from the same cloth. Yeah, they both have some similar fixations, I suppose. Wasn't in Austin recently that a couple got beat up? I don't know. There was something wonky in Austin a little bit ago. Just a couple of things. Well, a really weird story I'm talking about in my stand-up right now that happened that was really peculiar. Very Austin. Can't say it in mixed company, let's say. How do you think the Republicans are also covering for Trump, not only because of his policies, rubber stamp, because the Russians have something on them too? No question. I think, there's 6 or 8 Republicans in the, in the upper echelons of the RNC, Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan being big ones, and and Lindsey Graham, it's hard to tell whether it's money or he's been, or if they, it's from when they hacked his emails, one or the other or both. But there's no question, like, several upper level Republican senators received Russian oligarch funds through, shell corporations and black money. No question. There was the contingent that think that the person urgent sexually can't be a victim. Come on, if I was that guy, right? Things are like assholes. Everybody's got one, and then my phrase that I came up with, Amos, is opinions are like assholes. If you tell me you don't have one, I know you're full of shit. Would I rather see Ace Ventura 3 or Austin Powers 4? Austin Powers 4. Because Jim has done more work post Ace than Mike has done. Lindsey Graham is a sock puppet for Trump. It's like they're like Russian nesting dolls. And just his general public stance, especially on social political, has been modest and sincere. His public coming out as gay was in kind. Can't have another Austin Powers movie without Mini-Me. You have to replace him or something. Yes, you have to come up with some other version. Time to get scatological. Bill Clark's record isn't an opinion. Several prisoners have died. The prison he ran. I find him dressing as Michael Jackson kind of cute and funny, except in blackface. Michael Jackson, it's weird. Well, Michael Jackson, like, was gray almost at that point. Although 1984, we're talking close to Thriller. That was like Michael at his best, and he looked the best in that phase. Unless he was doing zombie Thriller, Michael. Hard to say. Do you think there's a need for another Austin Powers movie? I don't know if there's a need for one, but I wouldn't mind it. Is Dr. Evil based on Lorne Michaels? Yes, it is. Use was pathetic. Who are we talking about? Northam? For which part? How some say, some people see the glass half full and some see the glass half empty. I say, whose hair is this? I heard Mike Myers was working on a biopic about Del Close, one of my And how close is it? Privileged to be trained by Dell. Oh yeah, Dell. Um. I know what. I think my instructor at Second City, when he was in the main stage company, went over to Dell's and found Dell naked in the shower, overdosing on heroin. So there you go. Think of sequels, please make something original. I will, okay? Heard my mark. Yeah, let's see. Austin Powers and the Crystal Skull. Ah! I still like video games, something about the computer age that you get addicted to. Me too. Yeah. I went to Columbia College, Chicago first, and then ISU. There was no yearbook at Columbia. I still have the ones from ISU. Kevin, did you know Chemo Williams? Did you ever meet Chemo? Chemo was, I studied audio engineering with Chemo. My buddy Tom went to Columbia, and I paid Chemo for private lessons to teach us audio engineering at his home studio. He's a lovely man. Really a great guy. Super smart. Pay for a cameo if you'd rather. You have a tough job today to decipher the crazy women in Winter for the American Dreams. You hang in there like you do, believe it or not. Dick K has it too. Wisdom and Tooth, you both rock. Thank you, Sam Blamalam. I appreciate it. It's, I view it as an act of citizenry. You know what I mean? Like, I love this country and I love you guys, and I believe in it, and I believe in the sort of the promise of this country, and so making it better all the time, taking what was, imperfect and moving it towards, if not perfect, better all the time is, I think, a laudable goal, something to be proud of. Edge of Tomorrow rules. Yes, it does. Edge of Tomorrow is the best sci-fi movie of the last 20 years. We don't need another Rocky movie or Star Wars, etc. Please stop. I realized the other day that the only Schultz I would vote for is Charles Schultz. I think he's dead, right? Yeah. I love you too. Keep on keeping on. Thank you. American Dream, because you got to be asleep to believe it. George Carlin. Yeah, don't buy that. Alice dreamy. I have droopy eyes a little bit, and occasionally wicked eyes, but they vastly between the two. I'm very like a little arch to them. Not Sergeant Schultz. Definitely not Sergeant Schultz. So glad you have you around this point in history, Hal. You're a warrior who will get us through wisdom, insight, compassion, sadly lacking in your bright. Well, thank you. Belushi eyes. All right, there you go. I can live with that. Michael Jackson ended up performing in whiteface, which, like mine, like Marcel Marceau, made it the ultimate everyman, appealing to all audiences. Thoughts on Dave Rubin? I'm not a fan of Dave Rubin, and I think his, like, that one of the most. I don't disagree with some of his arguments, and like anybody, I can find certain areas where there's a sound philosophical argument, whether I agree with it or not, somebody's part. But his idea that he had this big come to Jesus moment because he had Larry Elder on, and Larry Elder talked him out of believing in things like affirmative action and the like, or whatever. Like, I've watched that video, and I was not impressed with the argument, and it seemed like a gullible slap. It was goofy. Like, it's just goofy. Mordor's Nate Silver tweeted about the hypothetical possibility of House's running, giving up President Bernie in a three-way. I'm not sure if he was serious, but it made me. Discussion about eye shape made me think of that. Playing a female shepherd. Bill? I used to rag on Michael Jackson for bleaching his skin until I saw somebody with vitiligo. There's a security guard at Whole Foods downtown Los Angeles who has vitiligo. He used to live in Venice, and he worked there, and then he moved downtown. And over the course of knowing him and seeing him as I shop all the time, I saw it take shape, and then eventually he lost all pigmentation in his skin, and he he's Hispanic. He's Mexican actually, and he looks Irish. Like his, it's not that he became albino. His hair's kind of still dark, but his skin is so fair completely. And like rosy cheeks, the whole deal. Like his skin is so white that he looks, Northern European or something. It's very interesting. And I was often curious about, in our modern age of how we talk about, white, brown, and black people and Asian people and marginalized communities and the like, and how this guy, what his experience must be as far as people's visible perception of him. That 5-6 years ago, he looked like a tall, heavy-set Hispanic male, and now he looks like a thinner English Irish, fellow, and what that's like in his community. He speaks Spanish. He lives in that community, but he, like, walking down the street, if you didn't know that he had vitiligo, because it's gone. He's not blotchy or anything. He was for a long time. He doesn't have, patched skin, different shades at all. He's whiter than I am. He's like pink. And I'm always curious what it's like to be in his community, which I'm sure is almost 100% Hispanic. In like where he lives in L.A. What that must be like for him, in this day and age where there's such a, where tribalism has as much sway and identity politics has very much to do with skin color and those kind of things, that to be that, that he must have such one of the most unique perspectives on human interaction based on race and culture intersecting in Los Angeles of any person ever, and I'm struck by that every time I see him. Really, really sweet guy. Like, I've literally have known the guy tangentially because I've seen him a bunch and said hi to him for, almost a decade. I remember noticing when he first had it on his hands, and it was relatively new, Weird Al, I'm always trying to get folks to expand their thinking. So many issues caused by narrow vision and inability to see the interconnectivity of all things. Brother, well, thank you, Can't Stop Line. I appreciate it. Do the terms World Breaker Hulk and Professor Hulk have any meaning to you in regards to Avengers Endgame? Seriously. Doctor Strange said Endgame, but so did Tony Stark said it before he did earlier. Anyways, really slick roads in Aurora. Yikes. Be careful driving in the Midwest. Evil Dead Army of Darkness will never have a sequel, and this makes me sad. Well, they did the Ash versus the Evil Dead series, and pretty much we love. Did you guys see Bubba Hotep? Have you seen Bubba Hotep? Because, oh my God, Ozzie Davis is a genius, and Bruce Campbell, like the two of them together, are just glorious. It's this lovely low budget piece of garbage, but it's so charming and funny and crazy and gross and sad and silly. Have you guys seen it? Have you guys seen Bubba Hotep? Are you from Lab Rats? Yeah. I binge watched The Discovery of Witches last week, starring Matthew Good and Teresa Palmer. If you read the book. Oh, good. Yeah. Jackson intentionally lightened his skin to appeal to Asian audiences. Really? Is that the story? Elvis in an old folks' home? Yeah. I remember how talking about Resident Evil, and I love the 90s. CS Line, I love that original. Yeah, the first game was awesome. The clicking of the feet when they go around corners and the inability to, like, you can only see around, the angle that they let you see. Oh. When he signed with Sony. Type. Or almost a Jill sandwich. I think I have a copy of Bubba Hotep. If you don't, you should. Always wanted to see Bubba Hotep. I will look it up today. Yeah, do it. The last good movie you saw was Dragon Ball Super Broly? Really? Oh my god, did we talk about Bird Box? What the hell? I just did a huge binge on I Love This. I watched I Love in the 90s, which new back then is actually nostalgic now. There's no way show could air today, though. Where did you watch it, Ginger? On YouTube or what? On Doom 2. No, I've been hearing odd things about Bird Box. It's just ridiculous. Like, they're all up on YouTube, yeah. I honestly, I found Bird Box to be racist, but just accidentally or accidentally on purpose, but just, man. I was confused. I swear when I watched I Love the 80s on VH1, it always said Queer as Folk on your name, and then I rewatched it, just said actor comedian. I think it always said actor comedian. I don't think we ever used the title of a show, because they wanted to use Talk Soup too, and I was in the middle of doing Queer as Folk, and nobody wanted to put the word queer. They didn't want to chyron the word queer. You know, that was one of the reasons why I didn't get to do a lot of TV shows. But yeah, you haven't heard that about Bird Box? Yeah. I'd buy them if that was an option. Yeah, they can't sell them because of the legal stuff. I've been binge watching the assassination of Gianni Versace, very compelling and tragic. Yeah, okay, so here's why it was it seemed racist to me. First of all, there's only like the two black people in it. One guy is like just this uber sexy object of perfection black dude who she has sex with and sacrifices himself. He's like a soldier. He just dies on her behalf. So he's basically an expendable piece of ass. And then the other black guy is this chubby nerd who sacrifices himself by pushing this other guy out the door when there's no particular reason why that'd be necessary. The guy who was who's busting in, who he saves them from, it's not like there's 9 of them and he saves them by doing it's just unnecessary, but they both die that way. The Hispanic girl is a thief. She steals the car and leaves. The Malkovich character is a Trump-loving bigot who actually says we're making the end of the world great again when they're in the place, and he won't have a gun. He has a shotgun the whole time, and the problem I have with his character is he's awful, and they're constantly like, you're a monster, but he's always right. He always turns out to be, we can't let these people in here, they'll kill us. And then they let them in, and what do the people do? They kill them. And, there's this one dude who's like, he's holding a shotgun on the guy, like, don't let him in. We can't let him in. And they're like, you have to let him in. He's like, I'm going to kill him right now if you don't shove him back out the door. And then this old lady hits him on the head with a pan, and they let the guy in, and they block Malkovich in the garage, and the guy that they let in murders the pregnant girl and holds the old lady's eyes open so she commits suicide. Like, he does, you can't make him the MAGA hat wearing monster, and every time he's a hero, he sacrifices himself to save Sandra Bullock's character, and he's right about he's literally like, it's like Bird Box is saying, yes, build the wall. Yeah. Like, it is absurd. And then the idea that the entire premise seems based on like an annoyed, wine-drinking single mom who doesn't want children, and this is like her mental fantasy of what it's like to have to go to the store with the kids in car seats. Like, oh my God, it's such work. Like, It's so weird. It's just terrible. Like, and I couldn't stop watching it because I was like, please tell me there's not a part in this. Like this, that it makes sense. And then in the end, the everybody's like, well, the heroes are blind people because they can't see the monster. They're not heroes. The sighted people show up and take over basically start showing up in piles. Whoever makes it to this institute of blind people, and the blind people only survive because they can't see. So I don't know what the message is in that, except for that the sighted people will come in and eventually have access to the space. And yeah, it's just gross. Like the whole thing. How's Bird Box worth watching? No. It's ridiculous. Thoughts on Ari Lang back in jail for drugs? Yeah, that picture was sad. It was really sad. He was a mess. I want to see anything that shows the crazy deal with crazy too much. Trump's America. Raining today in Vegas with the weather app says it's 100% chance of precipitation all day, so basically Seattle, right? Build that bird box. Right. Game of Thrones is over. I swear it said Queer as Folk on at least one episode, because I remember thinking, this guy's so funny, I need to check out that show one day. Cloud covers. Please tell me this movie ain't as stupid as I think it is. Don't make a sound proceeded. Don't see a thing. That's totally true, Sam Blam Blam. That's what I thought. Like, I'm like, this is just the blind version of don't make a sound. Which, you know, like, there's a lot of, they're making these like 2-hour, you know, Outer Limits Twilight Zone movies that have like a single twist or some unexplainable awful that's just torturing the people in it the entire length with no particular message, just like, what would you do if you had to deal? But the idea that she's going down a river blindfolded with these kids, and like, and the whole point is she's tough so she can make the tough decisions, and this is like a strong woman storyline. And ultimately, when it boils down to it, she's willing to have them all die rather than choose which child will make like, it's Sophie's choice, but she won't make the choice. It's so weird. Like, it's saw an interview with a Netflix executive admitted that they cull metadata of users to design some of their original film plots. So yeah, it seems like that. It seems like, well, they checked off these 9 things. Make a script with those 9 things in it. When I saw the thumbnail for Bird Box, I thought the same thing. Isn't that don't make a sound? Well, and the other thing too is, like, that was the annoying thing about Daredevil season 2 was that I was like, he looked like an extra from Bird Box. Like, I don't know why the series have not learned from the movies that people like the uniforms. Like, the Punisher has like 2 scenes where he's got his skull spray painted on him. Like, Daredevil only shows up in the costume every so often, and it's about, you know, and half the time it's about him losing it. Bullseye ends up wearing it for more than, I think Bullseye wears Daredevil's uniform more than Daredevil does. Criminy. The birds live after being tossed around in the river in a shoebox. Oh my god. Oh, and she also magically finds that the birds get freaked out when, like, she just figured, like, there's birds in this big. Alright. They go to the grocery store, and she finds birds in the grocery store. And birds are what let her know when the monsters are coming close, so you know not to look. Even though they're nearby, they're just always around. Like, just look. If you open your eyes outside, you'll see one. So why? I don't know. Just stupid. The whole thing is just goofy. When will AI take over all writer scripts? No. There's some writers already doing that. When some of the DC universe's entire problem is that they've got writers basically taking all the best scenes from the old, Superman movies and the Batman movies and going, oh, people like that scene, so you put that scene in, and they like that scene, and then reference that scene because people miss that, and we'll make a joke about that piece, and like, write an original story from it and stop writing origin stories. Like, that's why the comic books exist. You want to know how these characters started? Go read the comic books, dummy. Oh, God. I was pissed that Daredevil didn't fight fake Daredevil. That's why it got canceled. Yeah. Rotisserie chickens. Right. Yeah, they have birds at the friggin' place, but they aren't being eaten. They're literally just... And I mean, why didn't they have cats or ferrets or puppies or some other animal in a cage? Why not? Why birds? And why were birds magically the things that let the monster, the monster's coming? And if that's the case, then why didn't the monster kill birds? Like, Northam won the dance contest because he could moonwalk. Oh, that. Maybe it was given some movie advice. Yeah. Don't have to pay AI writers too, right? Have you seen this Into the Spider-Verse yet? Yes, I have. I loved it. Loved it. My buddy Terry Jones and I talked back and forth about it. Yeah, terrific. Yeah, they barely pay human writers. I'm so glad Marvel finally stopped rebooting Spider-Man Origin. That was their only misstep. Except yeah. Joseph of Parsner is Indian, and I can tell you're sick of white people and their Indian princess. Hey, I'll go read the comic. Yeah. The monster was a vegan. You're right. Eraser. Well, no, vegans wouldn't even have people stepping in front of buses, right? And the monsters were afraid of getting avian flu. Yeah, it was the only defense against them was H1N1. How did you see Spider-Verse with the boy? Yeah, I saw. Yes, Camden and I saw Spider-Verse together. Yes, and it was funny because we saw Bumblebee like the day before or 2 days before, and then we left early because it was too sad. He was like, "This is too sad." I'm like, "I agree. This is just morose and depressing and not inspiring at all. And this popcorn isn't good, so let's go." And then, but we still had wanted to see a movie, and so we went. 2 days later, we went back and saw the Spider-Verse, and we both loved it. Camden and I both loved it. Great. Started reading comics when I was 30 and freaking collect comics as a kid. Never get tired of them if they are well executed. This is true. Yeah. I mean, and I like the Transformer movies to some degree, and I was hoping I would like Bumblebee more, but it was just so like morose. Paul Feig made a comedy with sci-fi in it. Original Ghostbusters was a sci-fi movie with comedy in it. Paul, here's the problem I had with the remake of Ghostbusters, that it was made as a feminist icon movie, almost like it was an attack on the first Ghostbusters. Like, the first one had all these guys in it, and how dare they? And we're going to make one with women. Well, the guys who were in it were the guys who wrote it. I would understand if to me, if a woman had written Ghostbusters and it starred all guys, making an all-female reboot of it would make 100% sense, because it would be a sort of a reclamation. But since the guys who were in it were also the guys who wrote it, it seemed like a weird thing to stake your claim on. I'm not against, like, Ocean's 8 I had no problem with. You know what I mean? Because none of the actors in, Ocean's 11 or any of those, they weren't, both in the original and in the remakes, had no bearing on it whatsoever. But it seemed weird. It seemed hostile. Does that make sense? Yeah. Bumblebee was, in my opinion, well directed, and the actors were good. The letdown was in the writing. I enjoyed most of it. So, yeah, I mean, part of it was like, okay, but it was just, yeah, it was just so overwhelmingly morose for what it was supposed to be. I love the original Ghostbusters. I just see the new one, not at all supportive. Yeah, but you know what I mean? It was like Like, I get it in taking, you know, especially properties written by women that had starred men, and remaking those with women cast would be an awesome idea. Doing it with Ghostbusters just seemed like a dick move. And I like Paul, and I like the cast, but it just seemed like giving the middle finger to the wrong people. You know what I mean? Let me see the first Transformers. Yeah, or maybe watch The Good Place. He loves 3 episodes. I won't watch it. But it made Thor literally mad. By the way, today is Groundhog Day. Rip Harold Ramis. Yeah. Finally read some Wonder Woman comics. All right. A lot of remakes need not be made. They usually suck. Can't replace Dr. Venkman. Yeah. Well, And then the weird thing is, there's this weird 90s style comedy thing that's kind of stuck around as this millennial affectation, which was, like, let's go for it. Oh, no, sorry, you say that part or whatever, which it's in a ton of commercials. It's this weird little, like, modern comedy accent thing where everybody's afraid to say the catchphrase, so they pretend like, oh, no, it's your turn, you say the catchphrase or whatever, that kind of thing. Which just looks like a bunch of people pretending that they're in the original movie or whatever. It's like yesterday in the mall, I'm walking around and I see these two like millennial kids, and they're wearing like 80s like parachute pants and jumper jackets, and they look like they should be in Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo, and they're wearing it ironically while at the same time enjoying the pleasure of wearing outlandish clothing, which was the pleasure of wearing that stuff in the first place. So you're having your cake and pretending not to eat it too, and that's the problem. It's a dick move. I love the Harold Ramis movies. Yeah, he and Dan Aykroyd wrote that. They weren't jerks for being in their own movie. And that seemed to be what they were kind of saying with the all-female Ghostbusters reboot. It didn't, like, there are tons of movies you could remake with a female character, and like Alien, it would just work. Heck, I'd go see a Dirty Harriet movie. You know what I mean? Like, who cares? But it's weird when, the guys who wrote the movie and starred in their own idea are the first ones elbowed to the side for no other reason than it's cheap and popular. They tried blaming sexism. No one ever complained about Kill Bill starring a woman. Or Alien. Son of Harold Ramis is making another Ghostbusters movie. He's director. That's great. The failure of the new Ghostbusters was not based on sexism. There's a bunch of people who wouldn't see it because it was, because of how it was handled. But I would argue that one of the most sexist things about the remake of Ghostbusters was Hemsworth's part, because he was playing the Annie Potts part, and Annie Potts, while she's a beautiful and sexy woman, and was very intriguing, as Janine, the Ghostbusters secretary, she was feisty and tough, but she was not a bimbo. She wasn't, kind of like, she wasn't just there for her looks and to be objectified at all. As a matter of fact, she ended up being, like hitting on Harold Ramis, and ended up dating Rick Moranis' character. He was a normal member of the cast. Then they bring in Hemsworth as this kind of like male stripper, male bimbo idea, as if that's an even swap. And it was one of those bag of sand for the gold statue moments. Like, you just triggered all that stuff. The Hemsworth character was just like, it was sexist. It was straight out sexist. And you look back and you're like, really? Is that what you thought people thought of Annie Potts' character in the original one? You know what I mean? Because literally, the equivalent would have been closer to like a Zach Galifianakis. Like, he's lost some weight and he's kind of trimmer now, but he a quirky dude, but the idea that he was just this, Mimbo. He was just a gorgeous male, and they could just kind of objectify him, and then that's what made it even, was like, what is your opinion of Annie Potts, for Christ's sake? She was super funny and a great character. didn't get that at all. Yeah. Well, I mean, what else was he was just dumb and pretty. But Ghostbusters, what do you want? You know, Annie Potts was not that kind of character. Yeah, be well, guys. Yeah, be well, Tom. Thank you. One part of Ghostbusters 2016 was found out Chris Hemsworth could be funny. Then we have Thor 3. I'm not saying I'm penciling in Dirty Harriet on my list of things to write, but I'm totally penciling in Dirty Harriet on there to write. The Hemsworth character was cringeworthy, hating every second of him on screen, and I like him typically. I like him a lot too. I just found that embarrassing. Early spring. Oh, good. And he's super sexy in other movies like Harry Crumb. She's literally the opposite in Ghostbusters. Hemsworth thing made 0 sense. Yeah, it was just weird. And when your argument is we're doing this movie because sexism, and then the first act that you do as far as crisscrossing the casting is a total act of objectifying sexism, you completely throw your entire argument out the window. Right? Like, and it was, and the weird thing is like, even Sigourney Weaver's character in them, this was not, they didn't just find some, bulbous woman, Hollywood starlet with blonde hair. It was Sigourney Weaver, for crying out loud, who's a beautiful woman in her own right, but not this kind of like cliche of what Hollywood beauty is supposed to be. This was not a Marilyn Monroe casting moment. This was a woman cast on worth and charm and ability as an actress or whatever. So to go, we're going to fix sexism in Hollywood. How are you going to do it? Well, we're going to make a female version of Ghostbusters. Okay. And we're going to, the Annie Potts role is now going to be played by a guy that we will make jokes about touching shirtless. I think they were trying to be embarrassingly sexist. Yeah, but saying what? So anyway, absolutely. Criminy, it's 1 o'clock. Okay, you guys are awesome. I've stuck around way too long. I had shows to do tonight, and I gotta go to the gym, and then I gotta get some rest. You guys are awesome. Thank you again, Lindsay, for the super chat. Thank you guys for the super chats today. I really appreciate it. Don't forget the cameos, cameo.com/HalSparks if you want to get one of those. If you don't, most of you, if I'm at a show, I do them for free for people who come to shows. But if you can't come to a show or whatever, it's a good way to do it. So you guys are awesome. Take care. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're seeing this at some other time and you're not in the chat room. And then, of course, give this episode a thumbs up if you're so inclined. And in the immortal words of Veg, please give it a thumbs down if if in your mind you look like Chris Hemsworth with his shirt off as a Mimbo in Ghostbusters 4. Whatever he does. All right, anyways, take care. I'll see you next time, guys. Bye.